Did you ever wonder what will happen if you leave your country? In this episode, I'm sharing my personal story of leaving France behind and the unexpected consequences that followed. From cultural shock to language barriers, I'm opening up about the challenges that I faced and the lessons that I learned along the way. So if you are considering making a similar move, or if you are just curious about life abroad, or if you're just curious about my personal story, this episode is for you. Get ready for a raw and honest account of my experience quitting France and starting a new life in Australia. Let's go. Just to start with, something really important. I love France and I loved my life there. Let's be very clear. I had, yes, some personal issues that made me very emotional and I had to deal with some difficult things. But except this, I was living a great life. I had an amazing job that fulfilled me. I had great networks. I was partying, working, and I was very, very confident with myself. I had a lot of friends. I was appreciated. I was always here and there. I was just like having fun. It was a great time. And of course, I was 27 when I left, 26 when I made the decision to leave. But just to be very clear, I loved France. And to clarify, if I left France, it's because I was not growing anymore. And I realized that I was not learning, I was not challenged, I was not pushing myself where I should be pushed. I didn't leave France because I hated it. I left it because I could not grow there anymore. I could not. And I had a fantastic entourage, but this entourage was very toxic and I needed to get away. It's hard to explain, especially when everything on the outside looked fine, but just deep down, I felt like I was slowly disappearing, that I was not actually very true to myself, and I was getting too comfortable. And I didn't know what I was running towards. I just knew that I could not stay where I was. So yes, leaving was terrifying, but staying would have meant betraying the part of me that still believed in more growth, more courage, more life. And it was not just a change of scenery, it was a complete emotional shift. I left behind everything familiar. My language, my culture, my support system, my parents, my friends, my favorite restaurants, my favorite bakery. I left everything. And it was a very difficult decision to make, especially because my dad was sick at that time. And I decided to go ahead despite this. And for anyone who is in a similar situation, just be 100% honest with yourself and decide that if you decide to go, you will have to live with the guilt for the rest of your life. But if you are ready to make this decision and to take this burden on, then go, but be very sure that if you leave with something heavy to carry. And some people will not go just for that, and I absolutely understand. It's a very difficult situation, but sometimes things need to be made. I'm not going to go deep on that. It's my own wounds that I need to deal with. When I flew over to Sydney, I wanted to cry so badly in the plane, but I kept telling myself that it will only be for a year. And that little promise was my security blanket. It made it easier to take the leap, to pack up, say goodbye, and step into the unknown. I didn't plan to build a new life. I didn't plan to stay. I was just telling myself it's just for a year and this will help to keep the panic away. It gave me just enough courage to go. That 1 year became 2, then 5, then a whole new chapter. But it helped me a lot to make this decision. And I was saying that to everyone. I come back in a year. Arriving in Sydney was so brutal. I had to start from scratch, no job, no network, no safety net. I knew 2 people. I stayed at their place for 4 weeks. And I went from having a car, a stable situation, and a life that I built in France to living in the shittiest apartment you could imagine. Because of course, after weeks living at my friend's place, they're like, yeah, it's time for you to go, which is absolutely fair enough. So I started to look for some apartments, and you have no idea the type of apartment that I slept in. Cockroaches falling on my face when I was sleeping, disgusting toilets, shower in a fucking container. I can't even explain you, but of course, if you are from Sydney or Melbourne, you probably know the reality of this housing for backpackers. I was spending an absolute fortune into this accommodation, despite the very challenging hygiene that you could get there. Anyway, I've done it, I've been there. This as well humbled me a lot. I didn't have any job, so I started to look for a job. It took me some weeks to find a job. I finally found a job, cash-in, working 12 hours a day. I was paid $750 at the end of the week, but I was so happy to get this money, you have no idea. This challenged me a bit to go to the cafes, restaurant, looking for a job. For weeks, nobody wanted to give me a job. Everyone was telling me in France, oh, so easy to find a job, etc., etc. Well, it wasn't that easy. And then you are thinking, is it me? Like, I've been a waitress in France for many years when I was a student, you know? My English is not that bad either. Is it me? What's wrong? Did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing for the 7 first weeks with no job, sleeping in the shittiest apartment? I was wondering if I made the right decision. Did I make the right decision? Like, I'm sleeping in a shithole. I have like $300 left on my bank account. Nobody wants to give me a job. Like, what is happening? Did I make a mistake? I can't even pay for my flight back, you know, I was thinking. And then it's always when you are struggling at the end of the story that you get something coming up. So I was touching rock bottom, and then I got this job, and I was so happy, honestly. $750 for me was like the El Dorado. Keep in mind that the economy in France is not great. We are paying monthly, and I was basically paid twice what I was paying in France to work in this job. So I was like, there is opportunity here. You can make money. The truth is, being far from home forced me to grow. It stretches me in ways I didn't expect. I had to rely on myself, trust myself, and find strength in the discomfort. And this is a huge lesson here. And it gave me perspective. It made me more resilient, more grounded, and more grateful for the life that I'm building, even if it's really far from where I started. And the biggest shift was that I realized that what started as temporary was actually the beginning of becoming. I was becoming a better version of myself. I knew this is what I needed to become a better version of myself. And for that, I needed to fucking clean the toilets. I needed to beg to get a job. I needed to get cockroaches falling on my face when I was sleeping to grow. And it forced me to grow so fast, to build strength that I even didn't know I had. But I learned so much about myself. It made me also realize how France is an incredible country and how French people can be so ungrateful little shit. I'm not going to make friends here for sure, but I think we are very lucky to have so many benefits in our country, and we tend to not see them because we like complaining. This is what we do at our perfection. And don't get me wrong, I'm complaining every day, but I've realized many things about my country as well. And I'm so proud to be French, and I'm so proud of my country, despite everything. And I have so much respect for every other expat who starts another life on the other side of the world, who had to say goodbye to their old self, their comfort zone, and their family, just to become a braver, stronger version of who they're meant to be. France will always be home, always. It's my first home, and it will always be. But sometimes you have to leave home to come back to yourself. And this is exactly what I did. And if you feel like that, if you feel that you can be a better version of yourself and you want to see the world and you want to grow fast, then I can only recommend you to start over in another country. And you know what? The worst case scenario is that you come back in 6 months or in 12 months and you will have grown so much and you will have been so proud of yourself and you will start a new chapter in your life after that. That's it. I hope you enjoy this episode where I shared a bit of my personal story on why I decided to leave France and what I learned along the way. So if you have any questions, comments about this topic, please don't hesitate to send me a message, comment or share. And don't hesitate as well to share this episode with anyone else